Peter, can you tell me a little bit about this project? The beautiful native interpretive garden over there, which the kids have obviously had a big part in. How did it start? How did you fund it?
Certainly. I think for us, David, the nucleus of this started probably 5 or 6 years ago with some state funding, department funding, with our behaviour and wellbeing programs, and we created a homeroom aspect. But we found more and more with children presenting that we needed a differentiated learning approach in classrooms, that boys in particular needed other alternatives to express themselves in English and mathematics and science in particular, with a very much a values-based but a hands-on program, and we created these inquiry and toolbox programs, and now we have morning and afternoon programs 5 days a week. Still have a homeroom with a nucleus of about 20 boys in the morning, and they do some value-based games, some daily fitness, and just get themselves ready for the classroom. Some of those boys will then come back into the 5-week blocks, and so it's been an idea of mine for a few years, but I've got fantastic staff that have driven it, and we've been able to allocate a significant FTE. It requires of us to contribute about 2.5 teachers to make it fun successfully. 2009 being our first year, we have that adequate FTE for 2010, but we certainly need some additional support, obviously from our sponsors. And we're in currently for one of the ministers and the Director General's $50,000 innovative grant. So we probably need to hang our hat on that $50,000 grant for 2010. So that's worth half a teacher to us. So hopefully we will receive that. We've put in a very competitive package, and you can see here this morning with the wonderful feel and ambience around the place with that holistic approach.
And the Aboriginal kids look so proud of it, don't they?
Absolutely. An interesting aspect of this, with it being so hands-on and the ownership aspect with the community, people are starting to come in and enjoy the area as well. We've absolutely had no damage to the site since we've taken on that holistic community approach. You can see the beautiful rainbow serpent, the lovely murals, the vegetable patches, and the Aboriginal Sensory Garden. The creation of that, the design aspect, was from Janet Kelly, our Aboriginal Island Education Officer, and the kids with her drive produced it.
And how did you finance it?
We've received a BHP Bulletin grant of about $6,000. And the wellbeing monies that I receive as a school principal, now that we've got some flexible resourcing, we've been able to allocate that into the centre, and the types of people that are part of the team, I then backfilling them into which would normally normal classroom roles. So we've got roughly 2.5 FTE, as I indicated, and so I need to buy those people each year. So that we're looking at about $175,000 to $200,000 to fund it.
Right. It's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
Yeah.
And if we didn't have that flexible resourcing monies, we wouldn't be able to achieve the outcomes that we've actually achieved.
And are the outcomes easy to measure? I mean, when kids are getting on better together and they're turning up to school more often, or they're doing better in the classroom, can you relate that back to this sort of stuff?
We're tracking our level of incidences both within the classroom and the playground. We're tracking our attendance. We've now been able to compare our 2009 data with our 2008 data. It's certainly improved significantly, particularly within certain families. It's certainly improved in the last 12 months. So we're able to track our incidence level, we're able to track our participation, and we're able to track our homework attendance and our inquiry and toolbox attendance, those 5-week blocks. So the inquiry and toolbox programs, they're 5 weeks in duration, and they're measurable, and they receive a formal report at the end of that. And depending on how many programs a student's been in, that would then be embedded within their semester 1 and semester 2 reports.
And what proportion of your students here are Aboriginal?
We've got probably about 600 students on the site, K to Year 7. We would have 60 plus Indigenous students and probably 60 plus Maori and Islander students.
Yeah.
So we're looking at a significant proportion, 20-25%.
And I imagine the Aboriginal kids love coming in and seeing the rainbow serpent or woggle on the footpath. How do the other kids relate to it?
Oh well, it's been it's an inclusive program. So whether they be Indigenous or non-Indigenous students, they've all participated in actually the drawing. You would see the Dreamtime paintings on the slabs. They've come from literacy programs within the classroom and then transferred into an art form onto the paving. Now every student in the school's contributed to that. So it's probably where this program sets itself apart from others is that it's totally inclusive, and from that.
So it's not a program for Aboriginal kids.
No, so that all cultures within our school are embraced, acknowledged. It just happens to be that the Aboriginal Century Garden, the Dreamtime Serpent, plays a leading role within that perspective in terms of where we're at as a school community. We've got the totem poles over there with the Tree of Nations, so that again recognises the latest flag on that totem pole is a Korean flag. We've got two students that have come into the school in the last 3 months from Korea, so it's certainly totally inclusive.
And I see there's a few Aboriginal words on there. Do you know what any of them mean? Have you learnt any Noongar yourself out of this?
I'm getting there, but
I'm not meaning to put you on the spot.
No, I'm certainly the key one that I remember is bring forth the young, and that is actually the Karana, the meaning in Noongar language, bring forth the young, and that essentially what the school is all about. But certainly. The Rockingham area that I've actually got to know over the years is essentially not a traditional meeting place. So we've got different groups of Indigenous families within the setting. So it was probably a responsibility of mine to actually bring those groups together, essentially, and we've done that we believe quite successfully over the last 4 or 5 years.
That's fascinating, isn't it? When you start to do that, you learn more about the way their culture and society operates.
Absolutely.
Compared to ours.
Yes. The Warmbah area is traditionally not a meeting place. Essentially, the northern end of Rockingham and obviously Mandurah in the estuary area.
Peter, thanks very much for your time. Fantastic project.
Thank you very much, David.
John.
John. Hi.